This was the body of an average Indian living in the 1990s, and this is the body of an average Indian living today. A country which has gone through several famines and once had less to no food to eat and survive for its citizens. What happened in the period of 30 years that the same country now has one of the most obese people? Currently, 1 in every 4 adult is obese in India. 43 lakh children below the age of 5 are obese, and it is predicted by UNICEF that by 2030 more than 27 million children will be obese in the country. In the past 30 years, there is one more thing that has increased in popularity in India: fast food chains, ultra-processed packaged foods, fried street foods, and soft drinks. There is no coincidence that countries with highest levels of obesity also has the highest consumption of junk food. Same is with India. But in our case, we also have another problem due to which the odds seems to be stacked against us: our genetic inclinations, which makes the situation more complex. So let's understand what actually is ultra-processed food, why they are harmful, what makes them so addictive, how they are manipulatively marketed, how these foods are the leading cause of rising obesity in Indians, why our South Asian genetics puts our health at more risk, what are the solutions, and why this rising obesity is a time bomb if not stopped.
Now, more than 1 billion people worldwide are suffering from obesity.
We are struggling with the global obesity crisis.
Can ultra-processed food affect your mental abilities?
What is an ultra-processed food?
Till the mid-1990s, it was rare to see any fast food companies in India. Everything changed in the same decade when India's economy started getting globalized and open to foreign investments and businesses. That's when Western fast food companies started opening its chains in India. After the 1990s, food companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Mondelez, Pizza Hut targeted the Indian market. In 1995 came KFC, and then the next year in 1996, McDonald's entered the Indian market. This was the beginning of the rise of many more fast food chains in India. Some small Indian fast food brands was there before also, but not in the scale that the country saw after the entry of major Western brands. As the purchasing power of the citizens increased, these fast food companies saw more potential in the Indian market. Initially, consuming these fast food companies' products were a sign of high status and high income among people, which it still is. During the rise of fast food chains, the culture of street foods also increased. Foods like chow mein and momo started getting popular among people, especially within the middle class. These fast food stalls started opening in various neighborhoods. Following the Western fast food chain's success, several other Western brands came with their packaged foods in the form of chips and other products. Seeing this increasing consumer market, beverage drink companies also increased their sales, and the beverage industry rose in popularity. Then came the healthy food alternatives like packaged breads, breakfast cereals, and snack alternatives such as namkeen and biscuits. Slowly, the fast food chains and street food stalls became a go-to place in special occasions, and the packaged foods became a household name, people serving them to guests. But today, eating at these fast food chains, consuming packaged foods and beverages, and having a quick bite at street food stalls has become a normal thing even on a daily basis for many people. Currently, India is an emerging market for these junk food companies. According to Bloomberg, the sales of packaged foods and soft drinks has tripled in the past decade in India, and in 2022 it reached $32 billion, which is a great number to attract more such brands. A study on dietary pattern in India informs that Indians consume 10% of the average total caloric intake from processed food. The urban households in the highest income group consume almost 30% of their total daily calories from processed food. According to a fresh survey in May 2023, the rate of Indian households purchasing beverages including soft drinks and packaged juices rose from 38% in 2019 to 47% in 2023. Recent reports released in February 2024 shows that Indians are spending more on processed foods and beverages than homemade foods. Most of them are rural people, as young people who are living alone in cities to work or study have less time and energy to cook homemade food. This makes them more prone to consume these ready-made packaged foods. Parents who are busy due to their work commitments are switching to these quick-to-cook food for the children. And now with quick online food delivery systems, it has become much more convenient for people to quickly get food from outside. It's not that these foods are available only for the higher socioeconomic people. People with low financial conditions who can't always afford to buy nutritious foods are actually more prone to buying these packaged foods due to its low prices. The cheap cost, taste, and the convenience to buy and cook makes these foods a lucrative choice for every social class. But there is a hidden cost of this taste and convenience that comes with consuming these foods at such a large scale, and people pay this cost with their health. A recently released report shows a study done on the effects of ultra-processed foods on almost 10 million people says that these foods directly results through 32 diseases, including sleep problems. Researchers said they had convincing evidence that showed a higher UPF intake increased the risk of obesity by 66%, cardiovascular disease by 50%, type 2 diabetes by 12%, mental disorders by 53%, depression by 22%, and the risk of death by any of the cause by 21%. The products included were sweet and salty snacks, ready meals, instant noodles, breakfast cereals, some packaged breads, and carbonated drinks. So what is in these foods that consuming them leads to such harmful health outcomes? Food processing has been going on since many centuries. Nearly all food go through some level of processing. We get the raw vegetables from farms and cook them with healthy ingredients in our kitchens, which is healthy and we generally eat at our home. Ultra-processed foods are the same raw vegetables, but they go through many levels of industrial processing with several synthetic preservatives, artificial sweeteners, flavorings, and colors. This level of processing decreases or many times takes away the nutritional value of these foods by stripping these foods of fiber, protein, vitamin, and other sufficient nutrients and leaving it with high amount of carbohydrates, salt, fats, and sugars. The Nova Food classification has grouped foods into 4 different categories: unprocessed or minimally processed foods, processed culinary ingredients, processed food, ultra-processed foods. Any food that has harmful preservatives or chemicals in it and its nutritional value has been decreased or removed through many levels of industrial processing falls under the category of ultra-processed foods. These foods can be bought from fast food chains or supermarkets in the form of packaged foods. Apart from being high in sugar, salt, and fat, what makes these foods harmful is the preservatives and additives that are added in it for various reasons. If you see any natural food, it generally gets rotten within 5 days or a week, but that's not the case with these packaged foods. A packaged food needs to have a good shelf life, and to do that there are several preservatives added in it. Not all preservatives are bad, but several studies shows that many of the preservatives and additives included in the packaged foods are found to be harmful if consumed for a prolonged period. One of the most common preservative that is included in UPF is emulsifier. Emulsifiers are like a glue that holds the ingredients together, used to give the texture and appearance to these foods and increase its shelf life. They are used in chocolate, breads, cakes, and ice creams. Recent studies shows that these emulsifiers damage our guts by changing the structure of the gut bacteria, which damages the gut lining that leads to inflammatory bowel diseases and also causes liver diseases. Gut health indicates our metabolism, mood, and body inflammation levels. Time and time again, several food authorities have been banning some of the preservatives, additives, and artificial sweeteners that has been found to cause health problems in the studies. The studies on these preservatives are always ongoing and its understanding is evolving, so there may be more hidden risks that we don't know about. The beginning of artificial sweeteners dates back to when a chemist named Konstantin Fehlberg in the late 1800s created saccharin, the first artificial sweetener which was the first completely synthetic chemical added to the foods. And since then it has gone through being banned in 1977 by the FDA and then being allowed in almost 100 countries until now. After that, many more artificial sweeteners has been introduced in the market and are mostly used in ultra-processed foods. Some of the foods that are eaten as unhealthy alternatives in breakfast or snacks also contain these preservatives and other harmful ingredients, such as the whole wheat brown breads. Most of the brands that are available in the market contains unhealthy amounts of maida or refined wheat flour in their breads, some of them ranging from 30% to 50%. Maida has been linked to several health problems if consumed regularly, and upon that it also has several preservatives added. Use of caramel to bring the brown color is also common, and shockingly the amount of whole wheat is also less. If you were to bake a bread in your home, it would be less likely that you will add this amount of maida or preservatives. The breakfast cereals which many kids and adults consume as healthy item is loaded with several teaspoons of sugars. Another health alternative that is consumed especially by the kids are malt-based drinks mixed in milk, which also contains high levels of sugars. The fruit juices that comes in the market, people consume them as the substitute for the real fruit, but these juices have lost most of the qualities and nutrients of the real fruit in the process it went through, and upon that they have several teaspoons of sugars in it. When it comes to sugar consumption, a big and common culprit here is the beverage industry and its soft drinks. An average soft drink of 375 ml has on average 6 to 10 tablespoons of sugar, which is way more than the recommended marker for any person. Today people are consuming triple to quadruple the amount of sugar they did a few decades ago, and it is not a doubt how harmful sugar is. The purpose of producing and selling ultra-processed food is less about providing health and nutrition and more about making it addictive to sell more and more products. We should not even say it a food. It is an industrially processed edible substance. That's what Chris says. Chris Van Tulleken, a doctor and the author of the book Ultra-Processed People, has been researching about this food and its effects on its regular consumers. And he says this because these foods generally don't have enough nutrition in it, which is the most important reason we eat food. Chris did an experiment of eating only UPF for 4 weeks straight, and the results were shocking. With many other changes, such as gaining almost 7 kg weight, a very surprising change was observed in his brain scans. His brain habit and reward center was changed, which influences a person's behavior to repeat a certain activity to get a certain reward. These same brain changes are seen in people addicted to other addictive behaviors or substances. Chris compares UPF to drugs of abuse, which are designed to give quick delivery of a rewarding substance. In this case, it is the sugary and salty taste. The addictive nature of any substance depends on its speed. The speed with which a substance hits our brain or body decides its addictive potential, and junk food does that job perfectly. If these are the changes Chris can experience by consuming these foods for just 4 weeks, then what is it doing to someone who is taking it for months and years? How addicted will that person become, especially the kids? While eating real food, our internal mechanism tells us when we are full and should stop eating. But while eating ultra-processed foods, it disrupts this mechanism, resulting in not feeling full and making us more hungry by controlling our hunger hormones. That means until the body can tell that it's full and you should stop eating, you have already taken much more calories than the basic requirement. The author of the 2 famous books, Salt, Sugar, Fat and Hooked, Michael Moss, tells that our brain craves 3 components for evolutionary reasons: salt, sugar and fats, and these companies include these components the most in their foods and in a ratio that makes it more addictive. Even the crisp voice of chips that we listen while eating has been engineered for the same purpose. From the smell, taste to sound of the chips, everything is designed to make us eat more and more and get addicted to it. The dopamine system also plays an important role in this addiction cycle. The person stops getting the same kick he used to get with the quantity he used to eat before, and now he has to eat more than the previous quantity to get the same kick, which eventually leads him to eating a lot of junk food. These food companies have brilliant food scientists working on making these foods as addictive as possible. For a lot of people, these junk foods are also a way to fill their emotional void and run from stressful times of life, which traps them in a vicious cycle of consuming these foods and making them an addict to it. Some people get so addicted that they can't stop it even after knowing that its overconsumption is ruining their health and life, which is the same symptom of person suffering from any other addictive substance. However, when it comes to leaving junk food addiction, the study shows that once a person avoids this kind of food for a long time period, the craving for it also goes down with time, and in some cases that person even starts disliking these foods. Chris Van says that we all are the participant of an experiment that we didn't volunteer for, and he is correct. These companies have been experimenting for many years on what makes people addicted to eat more of these foods and whatever makes us more prone to eat it. That's what they do more of. However, eating these foods in moderation won't kill anyone or give the diseases that we talked about. But the question is, are people really eating in moderation? And the answer is no, and this is what makes this whole situation problematic. According to WHO, junk food is responsible for killing 11 million people every year, while tobacco is responsible for more than 7 million deaths. However, the people who consume junk food are more than who consume tobacco. This makes junk food as dangerous as tobacco, if not more. These stats shows that how important it is for any country to increase regulations on these foods. In India, there are certain organizations who are working on bringing awareness on this problem and to bring regulations on these advertisings. Dr. Arun Gupta, who is the chairman of Nutrition Advocacy in Public Interest, published the Junk Push report detailing an in-depth analysis of the junk food problems in India, the marketing tactics they use and the regulations that can tackle this. During the research, they found that 200,000 ads were flashed on 10 selected channels each month of different junk foods. These foods include chips, biscuits, chocolates, cold drinks and ice creams. The most common way these companies market their products is through television advertisements and social media platforms. Using celebrities who has a respected and trusted name and face is the best way for these companies to increase the credibility of their brand and products. So they invest millions of dollars in these celebrities and influencers. To create a positive image of the brand, time of festivals or special occasions are used to make an emotional appeal and develop familiarity with the people. But there is a huge problem with their brand identity, and it's in the difference between what they say and what they do. These companies use a concept known as health halo to create a false perception of their products. They use little percentage percentage of healthy nuts or any other healthy ingredients in their foods, which they show on their packaging, that creates the perception of that food being healthy, which attracts the people to buy and consume it even if it has high sugar, salt or fats. For example, there are many brands which includes almonds, tomatoes, oranges or any other healthy ingredient in their product, but in reality it is less than 50% or in some cases even 5 to 10%, and the rest is sugar and other additives. Even some of them have written on the packages that the brand name doesn't represent the true nature of the product. Due to this kind of marketing, even the health conscious people who don't research or read the labels carefully fall for this trap and end up consuming unhealthy food. The problem with this kind of marketing of these health alternative food is that it is consumed consistently and more than junk food. So a person unintentionally consumes several harmful ingredients in the hope of consuming healthy foods, which makes it a net negative. The breads, malt drinks and breakfast cereals are consumed almost daily, and malt drinks are many times consumed morning and night, especially by kids. What amount of sugar would these kids be consuming in just a month from these health alternative foods? If these companies would be telling the truth about what ingredients they have, then it wouldn't be much of a problem as the consumers would know what they are consuming. But in most cases, the products are marketed and sold on false promises, and that is the main problem here. Most of the junk food are marketed towards kids as they are the most vulnerable to get attracted to these foods. A study showed that 39% of food advertisements targeted general audiences and 61% targeted children. Use of cartoons and children in advertisements is common to persuade the kids. Free toys are also given in food packages which attracts the kids to buy these products. When it comes to children eating junk food, the rates are scary. A pan-India survey found that 93% children ate packaged food, 68% consumed packaged sweetened beverages more than once a week, and 58% ate these products at least once in a day. A 2019 report shows 40% Indian children bring packaged food in school. Even the canteens of schools are filled with such foods. To tackle this problem, in the schools of Japan, they educate kids about health and nutrition, and the kids are given healthy food options in their school lunch. In India also, there are few organizations which are making an effort to spread awareness about these foods among young people. Pawan Agarwal runs a Food Future Foundation, a non-profit which educates school students about healthy eating and nutritional value of foods. Some other countries has also brought strict regulations against this kind of marketing. In Chile, where there has been a rising prevalence of obesity, including child obesity, the government has banned the advertisement of certain junk foods between 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Images that were used on food packages targeting to persuade children has been restricted. After these interventions, the sugary drink sales has dropped by 24% in Chile. Mexico, which is also facing the problem of rising obesity and diabetes, its government has imposed a sugary drink tax which saw a decline in its sales. Now, as the regulations and increased public health awareness in Western and European markets is restricting these businesses, these companies are preparing to increase its market in developing countries like India, Africa and other Asian countries. Today, Unilever, which has many of its food products in the market from ice creams to malt drinks, generates 60% of its market revenue from emerging nations such as South Asian countries and aims to make these countries the largest source of revenue within a decade. The increasing population of India makes it a lucrative market for these companies, and upon that, people here have little to no awareness about these junk foods, and combine that with fewer regulations on these products, it is a heaven for these food companies. The packaging of the food plays a major role here. Right now we have the color coding system in India, but it only includes veg or non-veg items. It doesn't include sugar, salt and fats. A star rating system is to be imposed, where the star ratings indicates the product's overall nutritional value. But this system can be manipulated. For example, if a packet of biscuit has high sugar in it, but if they add a little amount of healthy nuts, they can get a star for containing fiber. The star rating system was proposed in Australia and New Zealand, but didn't brought much change in the consumption of these foods. A traffic light system was also proposed to the policymakers, but it was rejected, where the red is used for products high in sugar, orange for salt, and green for fat and saturated fats. Another problem is the letters on these food packages are tiny and written in English, which many people don't understand. In India, Revant Himatsinka, also known as Food Farmer, has been educating people about reading food package labels and ingredients. The Western and European countries are taking measures, and India also needs to bring some regulations if we don't need more of our children and young people to consume these unhealthy foods. It's a tough situation for the government to work with these multinational companies, as they also contribute in the economical growth and employment generation of the country, and then to bring regulations against them for the people's health will be a tough job. Upon that, these companies has always been lobbying and fighting against any such regulations. From the perspective of these companies, it is very hard to sell these food products in a cheap price and also make it healthy. But isn't that the problem? People eating foods which are harmful for them because they are cheap to buy and convenient to consume. The main purpose of these food companies is to make profits, and selling fatty, sugary and addictive food is much more profitable than selling healthy food. Today, more than 1 billion people are obese worldwide. According to WHO, by 2035, more than half of the world's population will be obese. America and UK is seeing rising rates of fat loss surgeries among its population, even including the children. Companies are introducing drugs to reduce this problem. This shows that obesity has become a global pandemic now. And with the rising rates of obesity in India, we also seem to be a major contributor in it. But obesity is little misunderstood in our society. If you see most of the South Asian people, when a person is on clothes, he looks like a healthy person with a skinny frame and normal fat percentage. But when the clothes come off, there is an accumulation of fat in the abdominal area. This is also known as thin fat phenotype or Asian Indian phenotype. A national representative study done on 6,98,286 Indian participants tells that more than half of Indian population is suffering from abdominal obesity. Along with personal choices, there is one more thing that is the culprit behind rising obesity in South Asians: our genetics. Dr. Mubin Sayyed, who has been researching on the health problems among South Asians, says that this rising obesity among South Asians can be attributed to the several famines that happened in India during the British colonization period. Our genetics have a tendency to change according to its environment and behavior. During the famine, due to the low access of food, the body's job was to preserve more energy and fat. In result, the South Asian bodies have become starvation adapted, means it has become habitual to preserve more fat and burn less calories to prevent itself from the next famine. For instance, South Asians burn much less calories than other countries' people at the same weight and height. But now, as our lifestyle has become more sedentary and there is an abundance of food, these genetics are doing more harm than good. The impact of famines on genetics also leads to other diseases. The studies shows that even surviving just one famine doubles the risk of diabetes and obesity in the next generation, and the risk of cardiovascular diseases increases by 2.7 times in the grandchildren. Today, 25% of the world's population is from South Asia, and South Asians contributes to 60% of the global cardiovascular disease. Along with that, we have the highest rates of diabetes. South Asians are 6 times more likely to get diabetes than Europeans. Dr. Mubin says that global health standards doesn't apply to the South Asians. We need different health standards. BMI is a very common formula calculated by the measurement of our weight and height, and it is used to determine a person's health by putting them in several categories of results. A person who has a normal BMI is considered to be healthy, but this formula might not give an accurate result for some body types, especially the South Asians. The study shows that even a person with healthy BMI can be abdominally obese and metabolically unhealthy. According to studies, 43% of Indians with normal BMI are metabolically unhealthy. This abdominal obesity is the reason that the BMI metric used to conclude a person's health doesn't fit on South Asians or anyone who is abdominally obese with a skinny frame and a normal weight. Abdominal obesity is generally neglected, but it is related to several health problems like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, metabolic disorders, and fatty liver problems. However, more than the genetics, what matters is our daily habits and lifestyle. But here also things are going wrong. During the globalization, as the development increased, people started moving towards the cities from the villages in search of employment. The work became more sedentary and the time and energy for other activities also decreased. People are now moving less. Desk jobs has increased. Physical movement, which was needed to do before, has decreased due to increased use of vehicles, especially in urban areas. The work pressure has also made it hard for people to find time for exercise, and some people who even have the time choose not to exercise. Children are also less active than before due to more time spent on studies and smartphones. Combine this all with increased consumption of junk food, the situation gets worse. Even in the homemade food, the overload of carbs and lack of protein and fiber has also led to more obesity. But our society doesn't seem to be much concerned about our people becoming more obese, and its reason can be attributed to the fact that we see being chubby as a sign of health. This mindset comes from the past, as obesity was seen something to happen to the rich and upper class only. Upon this, we don't have much awareness about what health problems obesity brings in the long term. When it comes to children and teenagers, it also has its psychological impact on them due to the insecurity that comes with being obese. Today, the gym culture is on the rise in our country, which is a great thing, but still most of the people don't do the minimum levels of physical activity. Only 40% of Indians meet the WHO recommended 150 minutes of exercise per week mark. Peter Attia, the author of the book Outlive, says that exercise is by far the most potent longevity drug we have.
I think exercise is the single most important longevity drug we have, bar none. Having very high cardiorespiratory fitness, so having a VO2 max that is elite, we would define that as the top 2.5% of the population, compared to below average, is a 5-fold reduction in all-cause mortality. Wow. Death from any kind. We don't have drugs that have a 5x reduction in mortality.
Many people who exercise do it only to get in shape for a special occasion, buy intense training regimes and crash diets, and then get back again to the unhealthy habits. Exercising and eating healthy needs to become a lifestyle change, and it's not just about looking good, but having an overall understanding of our own health. Just a walk in the park to burn fat might not be enough. We also need to focus on strength training and building muscle mass. A study shows that it is equally important. We need to build a culture where kids and teenagers do more physical activity. According to studies, the children who are more physically active perform better in academics due to improved concentration and overall have a better mental health. The economic cost that India will suffer due to healthcare costs and productivity losses resulted from an overweight population are estimated to touch $129 billion by 2035, almost 2% of the GDP. If we keep going with this speed, then obesity and junk food is going to take over smoking-related problems in health crisis. And upon that, we have seen how the South Asian genetics makes us more prone to obesity and other diseases. So we need to be more careful. The action has to be taken at each level. New and better policies need to be introduced to regulate these food products and its marketing. The food companies need to be held accountable for what they add in their foods and how they market it, and must work with the policymakers for making healthy choices. The celebrities who are endorsing these products must be questioned. At the community level, we need to build a culture of healthy eating and being more physically active. And we need to take individual responsibilities for ours and our family's health. Of course, the most we can do is to take personal responsibility, but when something turns into a public health crisis, then it becomes more than a personal responsibility. Everyone needs to come together to solve this issue. At the family level, we need to make smarter choices with what eating items we are bringing in our homes. There are always healthier alternatives for every packaged food, but we need to do more research for that. For an overall healthy life, sleep, diet, exercise, emotional health, and stress management is important, and we need to focus on each of them. We also need to educate ourselves about the right checkups to know what's going inside our bodies and get them done. Even a person who is looking fit may have problems going inside his body, as there is a difference between looking fit and being healthy. We also need to be empathetic to the overweight and obese people, because there are many such people who are trying their best to become healthy. Frequently, some people argue that talking about this junk food in a negative manner is just unnecessary fear-mongering. But fear-mongering happens when people create narratives out of thin air with no evidence or over-exaggerate them. And when it comes to ultra-processed food and obesity, we have substantial evidence that it has an overall negative impact on our health. This video is not meant to create any fear-mongering, but to inform on what it is that you are putting in your bodies consistently, so that you can make a well-informed choice for yourself. Thanks for watching till here. Stay strong and stay healthy.